Good morning from my tread desk. I am about to check my insulin ratio. I'm curious to what I will see from that because yesterday I chose to fuel with complex carbohydrates. And so I want to see what the result is today. First, I will get out a test strip for the glucose meter, and then I will open a test strip for the keto meter. I'm gonna open that and stick it into the meter. The Keto Coach is what I use, and it has turned on and is let's see if I can see that. Well, I can't see it very well, but hopefully you can, that there's a drop of blood blinking, the icon, to show me that it's ready for testing. And I will also insert the glucose test strip into the Rely On meter. And now I'll use the Lancing device to go ahead and take a drop of blood. And I double check and make sure that the icon for the drop of blood is flashing. I don't want to waste a test strip. Okay, so that's reading up. I can't quite see it myself, but I'll turn it towards me and look at what the number, oh, it just read the number. It's 0.3. Okay, I'll take that test strip out and toss it aside. And I'm gonna make sure this is still flashing the icon for the drop of blood so I don't waste a test strip. Stick the pipette end in to the drop of blood and it counts and reads the glucose that I have in circulation, and 89 is what it says. So now that gets tossed away. So that was 89 for glucose and 0.3 for ketones. I'm going to use that information to figure out my insulin ratio. I use a calculator app to do the math. So I do 89, which is the glucose, divided by 0.3, which were the ketones, equals, and my glucose reading, I'm going to round it up here, is 297. So that's a little above the high insulin ratio that Dr. Boz talks about. That's the information that I'm using. The way that I interpret my numbers this morning is that I'm doing really well based upon the fact that yesterday I had a fairly high carb load. I will put up a picture of the meal that I had and try to explain that. But since I had all those carbs yesterday, my glucose of 89 this morning is at a really nice level, and I'm pleased that I even have 0.3 ketones circulating right now. So I think I'm set nicely for the day ahead, and I'm probably going to choose to have another day of carb fueling because it's just what I feel like having today. I don't feel like going to fats. I've been switching back and forth between fueling with carbs, complex, whole food, plant-based carbs, and staying low fat on those days, and then switching to a day or two, or maybe even 3 in a row of having a fat-fueled day using healthy fats, whole foods, still lots of plants included in that, but in that case, on a fat-fueled day, I would make sure that my plants are low in carbohydrates. The non-starchy things like greens, cucumbers. I don't know. I'm not coming up with all the possibilities, but there are plenty of low-carb veggies that I could enjoy on a fat-fueled day. This is the picture of the meal from yesterday that I said I would add, and I consider it to be fairly nutrient dense. It's plant-based, whole foods, low in fats. I had a salad of arugula with sliced strawberries, and it was dressed with a homemade dressing from the Trim Healthy Mama cookbook called the Trim Healthy Table, page 53, and the dressing is a Italian trimmy dressing. I also had a bowl of okra stew, which is just a thicker version of Pearl's Okra Lovers Soup, and I'll put a link to that in the description of the video. I had a plate of cherries, which makes me think of the saying, life is a bowl of cherries. I ate a small red pepper cut into strips, and I had about 7 little red potatoes that had been baked the day before and were cold from the fridge. I could have heated them up. I just was in a hurry to put my meal together. So I ate them cold. I split them open in half in my hands and sprinkled salt on them and enjoyed them cold as they were. I have on the plate 2 really ripe bananas. They were so ripe that I decided to eat them scooped out with a spoon from the skins, and those were kind of my dessert finishing off the meal. So all of that together I consider to be a little high on the carb side, especially if one is following principles that you don't want to overload on carbs during a meal. But I tested 2 hours after my meal, and my glucose was 91. My glucose after the meal, 2 hours post-meal, was 112, where I had started with a 91. And so I consider that pretty good, not a high rise at all. I'm into my 19th month now, starting my 19th month of tracking my glucose numbers, and then I started also including tracking my ketone numbers so that I could get an insulin ratio. That I learned from Dr. Boz, D-R-B-O-Z. I don't follow a keto diet, but I've learned a lot from her about insulin. And recently I've been watching videos and reading the book by 2 guys that are type 1 diabetics, Cyrus Kambata and Robbie Barbaro. I'll show you a picture of them. These 2 guys are type 1 diabetics, and they are founders of a group called Mastering Diabetes, and they practice a very high carb diet, but the key is that it's low fat, really low fat. So and it's plant-based, whole foods. So I've been learning some of their information about how fats influence our insulin. I don't know how to explain it back to you. I'm still in the grammar learning stage of this myself, so far from being rhetorical on it. Not even at the dialectic stage yet. So I'm playing around with my food and trying to see how it affects my health and my glucose numbers. And actually even more important to me than my glucose numbers would be my insulin ratio. So anyway, there you have morning from the tread desk. Have a good day.